Uh, and I'm going to get some of this stuff out of my way.
Looks good, Rich.
All right. Now, this first picture is just the one particular area on my layout. This is the beginning of what it looked like. And the attempt is to take this double track bridge area that's crossing a swampy area and to turn it into something that looks like a swampy area. So this is what it looked like after that area was completed. What I'm going to do here is start off with all of this represents my first attempts at doing any kind of modeling water scenes ever. All of it was just seat of the britches. And I'm sure there's hundreds of different ways that any of this could be done by others, but this is what I wanted to accomplish on mine for what I was looking for. I took a lot of trips taking pictures around Michigan of creeks, waterways, backwaters, and things like that, so that I had good references on getting something done that I wanted on my layout. So the first two pictures are basically to show you the beginning and the end. The next process is starting off with what I did in a major area. This picture represents a stream on my layout that went from one side to the other. And you can see, let me do this right here, went from this side all the way around to this side. And there were 4 bridges across it. In this area, this is the area that, you know, had to be modeled. And the process was to make sure that everything was in place that would be an obstruction in the modeling of the stream. So that meant all of the bridge supports, the bents, the track was in, the bridges within, any of the rockways or other areas that would define where the stream is. Now, this next photo is just another look at that area from a different angle, showing some of the scenery that's been put in, some of the bottom. Let me back up to this right here. In this photo right here, this right here is extremely important. For me, going from one side to the other side, before I poured the water, I had to make sure it was good and level so that it didn't pour out onto the floor off of the layout when I put the water in. And I made darn sure that the entire area was sealed very well, because any of these products that you use for water effects, they will find the tiniest hole to leak out of. And since they're self-leveling, if something is out of level and the edge is too low, it'll pour over without any exceptions. So this photo represents, again, those areas. You can see right here where like I said, some of the scenery has been added in. The next photo here just shows you some more areas of where the scenery has been added in. And the next photo here, this one right here, when you look at it, you can see what I've done here is this is where sand has been added in. And when I get a close look at it, you can see that the sand is on the bottom. The more scenery has been added in. There's a dock area for a boat once it's poured in. The supports are bents where it's been ballasted around them and other rocks, and that have been added in, and some additional foliage. Okay. Now this right here, in this photo, you can see where just looking at the rocks that have been added in and the dock. You can also see the bottom of the supports. From here, it's just another photo of from the other side of the layout. We were showing from this side over here to here, but it's just showing the other side. These are retaining walls that I've added in to simulate to eliminate water erosion in areas. This right here is a photo looking down through the valley of it. I took a lot of photos doing this work because taking these photos enabled me to see what it was going to look like before the water was poured and to make sure everything was correct. In this photo right here, if you see my cursor, these two spots here, when I took this picture originally over here, there was broken pieces of red glass. Over here were broken pieces of yellow and amber glass. Now, all of these, the rocks and the sand that you see here, imagine this, some old man walking his dogs down the street with a dustpan, a dust brush, and a plastic bag, sweeping up rocks out of the gutters in the neighborhood. And everybody wondering what Rich is doing now these days. Well, as they asked me what I was doing, I said, one day you'll have the opportunity to see what I did do with them at the end of this project. They all understood. This is another view of that area from overhead. And let's go back this picture. You'll notice in this area right here, with the rocks and all of that, these are just weeds, reeds, and things that were added in. Over here, the same thing. These are cattails that I made, and it's nothing more than bits and pieces of grass that I had dipped into dark brown paint several times, let it dry, and then stuck them in individually to provide the effect of cattails. This area right here is looking overhead that you can see where those areas were done in through here. Now this next one is looking down towards the bridge supports from inside the layout. Like I said, I took a lot of these photos that helped me to define where areas needed some help so that you can see the dead wood that was put it in and other vegetation around this. Now in this photo here, you'll notice this area right here is going to become a major scenic area on the layout, so to grab people's attention. And as you look at this, you can see where more vegetation and that has been added around the base of the bridge supports, and other items as such as dead wood and vegetation have been added in. Now here, oops. In this photo here is another photo from the other side showing where the vegetation has been added in. Across through here, the retaining walls have been given a little bit of effect as far as dry brushing and that, and the vegetation and the growth has been put around the bottom of the bridge supports at this end of the layout. This is the double track bridge that goes across the very front of the layout. This is going to be a major area also that will show a scenic area. And I wanted to make sure that it had some good images as far as vegetation, reeds, and ground cover and grass. In this photo right here, this is where I began adding some nature things into the layout. This right here, if you notice, these are nothing more than a school of fish that I painted up and glued to the base of the stream before the water was poured. You can see the cattails that I've added in here. This photo right here, this was talked about in photo number 6. This is the area in which I was a primary major scene of a sloping area into the stream that had a lot of tall reeds. And what I had to do to make it more effective was to add in some cattails, and I added in here some birds, which are sandhill cranes. I got this idea from walking a creek out in western Michigan that was a primary nesting areas for sandhill cranes. And the photos that I took of that area just perfect for this particular area on my layout. And it did come out pretty well, I think. On my layout, I also thought, what are some of the things that I need to do beforehand, before the water is put in? And on my layout, I knew there was going to be a water tower that supplied water to the coal mine tipples. So that water tower needed a source of water, and I had never ever seen on any layout how water got to a water tower. So I decided to make up a water intake within the stream that the water could be pumped out of and on up to the water tower. And in this scene, I just added in more dead wood, more reeds, and other vegetation. This next photo is just an overhead view of the layout. And in this, you can see slight areas of green that are put in. And all of this is very fine turf that was in different colors that were just lightly put into the layout to give it some kind of a look of a mossy waterbed, as over here in various areas. This next photo, now the water's poured. And I'm going to give a little bit of information about water pouring. All of the waters, this particular brand that I used is called Magic Water. And the only reason why I used it, in all of the water effects that I saw by everybody else, everybody was having a lot of problems with different things. And I just happened to select this one particular product because other people had used it. And I will tell you, this particular water product really came out very well for me. It was very clear because I want it to look clear, no haziness, no bubbles or things like that. All of them do creep up into other things, but that's just something inherent with all of those products. So this was the effect of the fish in the water. And this is the effect that I wanted when looking through both of the bridge supports of the sandhill cranes in the back scene, nesting in their area. And I wanted the scene to look virtually just like this. The thing that I liked in this photo, not only did they stand out, but the reflection in the water came out very well. And some of the things that I considered also was, over here you can notice a small yellow wildflower that stands out in the photo. This right here is an overall view of this area from the from it. And from here, you can see the dock over here on the side, the cranes. And if you look carefully right here, there's a couple of birds put in. Over here, on this right here, if you look very carefully, don't let that snake bite you. It's sunning himself in the sun. And then got the very overhead look of everything that was done. You can see the submerged rocks, the dock, the intake for the water, for the coal tower, water tower, and this tree that overleans the stream just adds a little bit more effect. This right here is the overall photo of the entire area that was done. And in this, I'll say this, pouring the water was the least troubling thing that I did. I was worried about it because making sure that everything came out right with the pour so that it didn't leak. That was my only real worry. The real work and the real effort comes into, if you're doing modeling, at least in my opinion, is taking a little bit of time, investigating what you want to do, and then try to find areas that help you to model and represent what you're trying to do. Adding in those details will give you primarily what I think what you're looking for in the end result. And all of these things that were added in, that's the, to my point, those are the things that need to be considered when you're modeling water scene. Over here, the vegetation, the wildlife of the wildflowers. Here in the tree, there's some birds, a little bit difficult to see in this photo, but here's 3 birds up here sitting on a dead tree limb. The snake, of course, down here, the birds over here, and the like. So that's about all I got to say. The project that I did here took me a little over 2.5 years. But remember this, I had a business that I ran, took me about 60, 70 hours a week. So I had very little free time to accomplish this. So that was the time, but the time studying and preparing to do the work was well worth it. And I highly suggest, if you're looking to do this, spend some time in the woods and taking good pictures and photos for things that you can look at doing in an area like this. So that's my presentation, and we'll entertain any questions anybody has.
Very
Anyone
stunning.
have any questions?
Beautiful work.
Thank you. It was a lot
Yeah.
of fun, a lot of fun.
Extremely good looking. Very
I like
realistic.
the detail on that. Rich, on
Interesting,
that
Brett.
some of the first slides you had, it was kind of white. Was that what you used to make the white? Is that plaster or something else?
Okay,
Or?
let me go back to those photos.
Yeah, I love the detail in there and everything like that. That's
Okay,
good. The colors,
this
different colors.
take
Yeah, right there.
all of the white is plaster work that was done.
What kind of plaster did you use?
I just used it's that Durabond that comes in various time. You can get Durabond 9, 15, 20, 45, 90, and it's just a dry powder mix that you mix up and put on. The base for all of this was nothing more than cardboard laced in our paper or things like that to help build it up. And I just built up those areas all around the layout till it got to where I was comfortable with the different elevations and the scenery that I wanted to achieve. All of the rock work is just done from rock molds. I bought the rock molds off of woodland scenics and made my own molds using the same material. I started out using the woodland scenics with the hydrocal. This area right up through here, I'll bet you I spent close to $200 in hydrocal. All of the rest of my layout, I went through one bag of the Durabond dry powder mix that cost me less than 15 bucks. And I got a lot on my layout that I had to use that. So that's what all of this is. And then after I had all of the major stuff in, all of this I painted a muddy brown, just like the stream bottom, so that I didn't have that whiteout effect from all the snow.
Okay, I remember you saying Durabond was a favorite of yours. I can see the way it works and the cost. I was going to ask you the rocks and like the different sizes. Did you? I think you mentioned you went to like Home Depot or Lowe's and got a bag of sand or something that you could
Okay,
or
well,
sift or something.
well, that was for a different project that I did on a retaining wall area where I sent out pictures on that. Well, I'm not going to go to it right now because I'll probably lose it. But that was another area that I sent out a group of pictures of Camp Taylor. That was the coal mining housing project.
Oh, okay.
And the sand that I used on all of that came from just bags of that. And all of my ballasting work, I don't know, let's go back to that. All of the ballasting right here on the layout, all of
Yes.
this came from those same sand bags that I got from Home Depot, Lowe's, and that. And all I had to do, what this is crushed sand for paving stones. And I sifted through it to get the particular particle size that I was looking for. On my layout and things that you'll see later out in the tour, out of one $5 bag, I think I got enough to do a very large portion of my layout on here and the one that I'm building presently to do a very large area for just $5. The same amount of ballast that would be done here on this layout and the one that I'm presently doing probably would have been maybe $200 or $100 or more. So even though it was less expensive, the time involved sifting it out got me what I was looking for. And that was real rock that I thought imitated real ballast.
And some of that rock is at the base of those supports too, and some of the
No.
other areas of the lake.
Well, this right here, these rocks right here, these are
Yes.
rocks that I got out of the street in our neighborhood that we lived. As I said, as I was walking the dogs, I'd carry a plastic bag, a dust brush, and a dustpan. And where I saw little bits of gravel and stuff like that in the gutter, I'd sweep it up into the bag, take it home, clean it up, sift out the good and the bad. And I used it as the talus or rocks on all of my modeling areas.
And you use a different bag for the dog, right?
Say what now, Larry?
Oh, okay. I think Bob has a question. Oh, he answered the question.
Actually, this is Bob. The question I had was your in the very first slide of whether or not you used that brown, just the brown paint. on that, and you answered that during
Okay,
the last question.
this paint right here. All it was just, I went to the store, I found a blotch that looked like what I wanted and had them make up one of those. When you go into the Lowe's and Home Depot, they've got these little bitty things. I think it's about 4 or 6 ounces of paint that they'll mix up for you for samples and testing. And I just had 2 of them made up so that I could paint the whole layout rather than buying a whole gallon of paint that was going to be wasted.
In the audience here, is anybody? Oh, okay, we do have a question.
Hey, Rich, this is Dan Crawford, and let me say first, this is incredible. It looks incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My only question is, you said you use something called Magic Water.
Yes.
Who makes that?
I forget the guy's name. This guy used to, when I lived in Michigan, we had our flea markets, our train shows and that. There was this guy that came around for many years peddling his product that was called Magic Water. And we told him, you know, we don't mind you peddling your idea, but why don't you set up a booth with some examples of your product having been used? So I guess it was at about the 3rd or 4th time that he came to one of the shows, he brought in a display. And that display caught everybody's attention simply because he went to the effort of doing all of the necessary scenery work around it and with the water poured into it. And this was just the general overall look of the product was just fantastic. Now that had been years had gone by. He disappeared, never saw him again until maybe 5, 6, let's say about 7 years ago. He had health issues, but anyway, during all that time he was selling his product. But anyway, when I started my layout, I went and used it, and only because of other people had tried it out, they liked the results. The results of it were, it didn't haze over, the bubbles diminished. You never saw any bubbles. It actually stayed a little bit pliable, but never tacky to the touch. It didn't shrink, it didn't swell, and it didn't turn yellow or anything. So to me, the product was real good. He still makes the product under that name called Magic Water. And if you look it up, you'll find it. I will say this, when I bought it, it was the most expensive of all of the water products that were out there available. It was twice as expensive as anybody else's. Now on my layout that I'm building here in Somerset, I will have a water scene and I will buy it again. I will say this, I bought the product about maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of time. He made a comment to me. He says, over time, this product will develop a haze inside it. It'll look real murky. He says, the only thing you have to do is put it in warm water for several hours, maybe overnight, and all of that will completely disappear. Well, I had bought the product, put it away. When I finally got it out to use it, the bottle looked like white milk. And I said, oh crap, I've been had. So I did what he told me to do. And the next day it was perfectly clear.
Wow.
So it did what it was supposed to do. I hope that helps you, but that's,
Yes.
it did it.
One other quick question. Have you ever tried the water stuff from Woodland Scenics? Do you know anything about it?
I haven't, but there's some guys I know that have worked with it. I'll say this, they've had results that they weren't totally pleased with. I never saw the work. These were people that had, during layout tours from our division in Michigan, that, people came to see layout tours that made comments. What kind of water affects, what did you use for your water? And they were telling me of some of the other products. I can't remember their names now, but one of them was the Woodland Cynics, where you had to melt it down in that, and they were various pores. They just weren't totally happy with the results of the product. I
Okay.
know one fellow that used, I think it was called Envirotech, that I saw in a tour on another division layout tour. And his water effects, now, maybe it was the product, maybe it was the way he applied it, but it was flaking and peeling away in a lot of areas. So, but this never did any problems for me. The only sad part about all of it was when we decided to move to Kentucky, and all of this went in the dumpster,
Oh,
but the memories are still there.
okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's another question.
Hey, Rich, what's the
Rob,
depth of the water?
About 1/4 of an inch, maybe 15/16.
Not much, okay.
Yeah. Now, to get it looking deeper, that's where you take and start from the edges, making it darker and darker and darker out into the middle. That helps to create depth. I wanted mine to look like a natural area of a very calm area where the water was just barely trickling along in a water scene, so that there was no ripples, no waves or anything else. It was sort of like it had just there and just flowing along very easily. But it looked like there was a lot of activity whenever there were heavy rains because of all of the erosion around the sides.
Rich, this is Brian Jones. It does look incredible. When you said you didn't remember, I did a quick search around for magic water, and I found it on Walters. Is it a 2-part mixture?
Yes.
Okay, it's probably the same thing because it uses almost exactly the words you described it about the abilities of it.
Yeah.
And
Did you say,
unfortunately,
did you say Walters was carrying it now?
well, it's on their site, but out of stock, available, sold out.
Oh,
So
okay.
you could add it to your wish list. It's like $35 for 18 ounces.
Well, I'm gonna have to start researching and finding that and going ahead and getting it ahead of time, because I do have an area on my layout that's going to be a water port, and I do want to use this product. So I'll start looking for it to find out where it's obtainable. Back several years ago, he was still in the market of handling it himself. So I'll just have to research and find it out.
Well, it's there, but like I said, it's sold out. Add to wish list, so they apparently think they can get it back. But every word you said is like you read the ad here on Walters. So, but it does look incredible. Congratulations on your work.
Thank you.
Hi, Bob Belt. I've used both the Environtex and I think water effects, and also used some art, and I've forgotten what the stuff is. You can get waves with it fairly nicely. The one problem that I've had is on the T-track layout. If the guys remember the corner thing, I believe that is Environtex. And if I remember correctly, that is cracked over I did that about 5 years ago. So that's one of the things you need to watch out for with a resin product. Don't have any idea why.
I wish I could remember the guy's name that made this product, because I talked to him a lot about this after he brought in a mock-up of his product. I asked him about putting in scenes where rushing water, gushing water, where there was foam and stuff like that. He said everything that he had used wound up with some of that kind of problem, peeling away or whatever. He said about the only thing that he had found that worked in his product well enough to give it the water a little bit of distortion was about 5 or 6, maybe 8 hours after it had been poured, was to take a heat gun and to use the heat gun to form ripples in the water the way you wanted them. If you got too big or too heavy, you just use the heat gun back the other way, because, and he said, generally you would have to do it again another 2 or 3 hours later, because this stuff wanted to consistently go back to a level state. So as you worked along, he says, and some of his displays, he was up for 24 hours straight getting in the effect that he wanted. This particular product does take longer to set up. I will say in the process of the 2 pours, of which it took, if I'm not trying to remember, it took 3 boxes of this stuff, and it was over $100. But anyway, I think it took approximately maybe 2.5 weeks for it to completely cure and to solidify. Like I said, it was still, it's not tacky to the touch, but it's not hard like a real glassy or rocky surface. It just seems to have some kind of a water, well, just a non-solid feeling to it. And it was very easy to keep clean. And I mean, very easy to keep clean. Whenever dust would, this picture right here is one of the pictures that I took before I left Michigan. This area, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, maybe not that many, at least 3 times, all I did was take a piece of cotton cloth, wetted it down just a little bit with Windex, and just wiped it all off. And it took care of the dust and everything that accumulated on it.
Okay, looks good. Do you have, anybody else have a question here, Bob?
Yeah, Bob again. What I had used for my waves was actually an art thing. I'm trying to remember what the name of the stuff was,
Liquitex.
but it dried fairly quickly.
Yeah,
then
Liquitex makes it, and it is a good product. That was the one thing, gosh, what's that guy's name? That was the one thing he said he hadn't tried, but it was it was Liquitex that made a product that was kind of almost like a liquid silicone in a way, but it was washable. You could mix it with water, but you could put it on, make ripples, and that he did that on one of his areas. I just never needed it, but it was a Liquitex product.
Yeah, Rich, I don't think that was the name of the product that I have, but I'll look it up.
Okay.
Got it down on the workshop. On Tuesday night, I'll see if I can find it out. But it's actually used by artists to get usually they overcoat, and it's done over an oil-based paint.
Okay.
Very typically, but this was not labeled environment. I'll dig the information out and have it ready on Tuesday.
That wouldn't have been a Liquitex product.
Okay. Is anybody, nobody has any questions here, I don't believe.
I have one question.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Randy. Is that you? I
Yeah,
can't see
what
the
was
screen.
the inspiration for the center pier on one of your bridges? It's real unusual.
What do you mean, the center pier?
Yeah, the support pier, it uh go to no, not on that bridge. It's on one of the bridges on the outside there, the
This
center
one here?
pier. Yeah,
Uh, my oldest daughter was married to a fella that lived in Pennsylvania. Trying to remember the name of the town. It was a backwoods town. We went over there one day for a family picnic, and he took me a ride through some of the back areas of around the hills and streams over there. And I saw this double track bridge just like that. It
wow.
was much longer and it was straight. And I said, that really looks cool, and it stuck in my mind. So that's where that bridge effect came from. In this same photo, let me go back one.
Yeah, I think you've
This-
got a lower angle shot of it somewhere.
This bridge right here
Yeah,
was it in the same area
wow.
where that bridge was. So I didn't have a camera to take pictures, didn't have an iPhone back then, but I kept those mental pictures in my head. Years later, after I had built the layout, we went back to that area, and I was pretty damn close to the mental image that I had in my brain. That one more or less represents the original one, but it was up over, it was probably went several 100 foot over a swampy area.
Yeah, that I'm talking about the center pier on that curved bridge.
Okay,
There. Go back 2 or 3.
there.
Go back.
That one at the bottom.
Well,
There.
there. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
this
center.
right here,
Yeah,
what made me think of that? Just my pure thought about it. What if this was gushing water that came down through here? Would the wood get washed out, the wood vents? So I put in a stone one and built this up. So it was just my own inspiration, my own
That's-
idea.
it's pretty cool looking. Very unique.
Thank you.
This is Ralph Haddock. I really appreciated the detail in this. It's fascinating to me looking at all that. One question I've got is I've been looking on the internet here and I see several postings about this magic water from several years ago. And you talked about how it had been a few years since you had gotten any. There's one source here that has posted, notice product is sold out and now deemed out of production. And I was just wondering if you had information about the manufacturer to where we actually see if it's still in production or if, the distributors, that
Well-
still have it are just getting rid of
Well-
residual inventory. And so once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, the guy himself was the factory. Him and him by himself. It was a one-man operation, and he mixed it in his garage at home. It was over close to Oswego, Michigan is where he lived. I know that he had eventually got it around into a lot of the hobby shops around Michigan. And like I said, after I moved down here, there seemed like there was a couple of places in Michigan that still had it available. But now that it seems that I will look to see if it's available someplace, find out who the guy is. And if I do find out, I'll get the word out to everybody because now I'm a little bit sad that it's not available. And we'll have to look for something else, or maybe I won't do a water effect again. But I'll let you know
okay.
when I find out.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Rich. Do we have anybody else have a question? How about on the screen? I can't see all the people on Zoom. Does anybody there have a question? Comment or? I guess not. Thank you, Rich. Great
You're
job. I
welcome.
love that clinic. Yeah, all the detail and everything like that.
You can
Thank
stop
you
the
very
share-
much.
You can
I'm gonna
stop the
stop
share
it.
now, Rich.
I'm stopping the share. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I guess that's the kind of the last thing here. So I guess we'll all go our separate ways. And we'll meet again